Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Flow Podcast. I'm really happy you're here because today we're going to improve your English in one of the most enjoyable ways through a story. Reading grammar rules is useful, but listening to stories helps you understand English naturally. You hear real sentences, useful vocabulary, and everyday expressions while enjoying an exciting adventure. Today's story is Treasure Island, one of the world's most famous adventure tales. Don't worry, we're not reading the complete novel. I've prepared a simple version especially for English learners. The language is easy to follow, the sentences are short, and the story is told step by step. Here's what we'll do together today. First, listen carefully to the story. Then, in the next section, we'll learn useful vocabulary from today's episode. After that, we'll practice shadowing so you can improve your pronunciation, fluency, and confidence. So find a comfortable place, relax, and let's begin our adventure. Many years ago, on the coast of England, there was a peaceful roadside inn called the Admiral Benbow. It stood close to the sea where travelers and sailors sometimes stopped for food and rest. A teenage boy named Jim Hawkins lived there with his father and mother. Most days were quiet. Jim helped his parents with small jobs around the inn, greeted visitors, and dreamed about seeing the world beyond the ocean. Everything changed on a cold autumn afternoon. A large sailor arrived carrying a heavy sea chest. His clothes were old, his face was weather-beaten, and a long scar stretched across one side of his cheek. He asked for a room, paid a few gold coins, and decided to stay. The stranger introduced himself only as captain. He never spoke about his past. Every morning he climbed the cliffs overlooking the sea and carefully watched every ship that passed. It seemed as though he expected. Treasure Island Learn English Through Story. Hello everyone, and welcome back to English Flow Podcast. I'm really happy you're here because today we're going to improve your English in one of the most enjoyable ways, through a story. Reading grammar rules is useful, but listening to stories helps you understand English naturally. You hear real sentences, useful vocabulary, and everyday expressions while enjoying an exciting adventure. Today's story is Treasure Island, one of the world's most famous adventure tales. Don't worry, we're not reading the complete novel. I've prepared a simple version especially for English learners. The language is easy to follow, the sentences are short, and the story is told step by step. Here's what we'll do together today. First, listen carefully to the story. Then, in the next section, we'll learn useful vocabulary from today's episode. After that, we'll practice shadowing so you can improve your pronunciation, fluency, and confidence. So find a comfortable place, relax, and let's begin our adventure. Many years ago, on the coast of England, there was a peaceful roadside inn called the Admiral Benbow. It stood close to the sea where travelers and sailors sometimes stopped for food and rest. A teenage boy named Jim Hawkins lived there with his father and mother. Most days were quiet. Jim helped his parents with small jobs around the inn, greeted visitors, and dreamed about seeing the world beyond the ocean. Everything changed on a cold autumn afternoon. A large sailor arrived carrying a heavy sea chest. His clothes were old, his face was weather-beaten, and a long scar stretched across one side of his cheek. He asked for a room, paid a few gold coins, and decided to stay. The stranger introduced himself only as captain. He never spoke about his past. Every morning, he climbed the cliffs overlooking the sea and carefully watched every ship that passed. It seemed as though he expected someone to appear at any moment. Whenever he returned, he drank rum, sang loud sea songs, and frightened the other guests. Jim noticed something unusual. Although the old sailor looked fearless, he became nervous whenever another sailor visited the inn. One evening, he quietly called Jim into his room. "Listen carefully," the captain said. "If you ever see a sailor with one leg, tell me immediately. I'll pay you every month if you keep watching." Jim accepted the offer, but he had no idea why this mysterious man was living in constant fear. Days turned into weeks. The captain became weaker, yet his fear continued to grow. Then one dark afternoon, a blind stranger knocked on the inn's door. The man walked with a stick, but his movements were confident, almost as if he knew exactly where everything was. His name was Pew. The moment the captain heard that name, the color disappeared from his face. Pew secretly placed a small black paper into the captain's hand. Among pirates, this was known as the black spot, a terrible warning that usually meant death was near. The captain stared at the black spot without saying a word. His hands began to shake, his breathing became faster. He tried to stand up, but after taking only a few steps, he suddenly collapsed onto the floor. Jim rushed to help him, but it was too late. The mysterious sailor was dead. Jim and his mother stood there in complete silence. Outside, the wind grew stronger, and the waves crashed against the shore. Then Jim remembered something the captain had said many times: "If they ever find me, they'll come for my sea chest." They knew they had very little time. The two of them hurried upstairs to the captain's room. In one corner stood the heavy wooden chest that the old sailor had protected for months. Jim's mother wanted only the money the captain owed them. She believed taking anything more would be dishonest. Jim agreed. They unlocked the chest and slowly opened the lid. Inside they found old clothes, a rusty compass, a small telescope, and coins from many different countries. Some coins were silver, others were made of gold. But hidden beneath the other items was a carefully wrapped package covered in old oilcloth. It looked important. Jim picked it up carefully. Just then, they heard loud footsteps outside the inn. Someone was coming. Jim's heart began to beat faster. His mother quickly collected the money they were owed. Jim grabbed the mysterious package. Without looking back, they hurried out of the inn and hid nearby, hoping they had escaped in time. Jim stood hidden near the old wooden building, holding the strange package tightly in his hands. His heart was still racing from everything that had happened inside the inn. He looked around carefully. The night was getting darker, and the wind was stronger now. Somewhere far away, waves were hitting the shore again and again. Jim knew one thing very clearly: danger was not over yet. He slowly opened the package he had taken from the chest. Inside, there was an old folded paper. It was not just paper, it looked like a map. Strange marks were drawn on it. Small symbols, paths, and shapes of land that Jim had never seen before. At one corner, a red mark stood out. It looked like someone had carefully drawn it many years ago. Jim didn't fully understand it, but he felt this map was very important. Without wasting time, he decided to go to Dr. Livesey. He ran through the quiet roads until he reached the doctor's house. When Livesey saw Jim, he immediately noticed something was wrong. Jim was breathing fast and looked tired. "I have something important," Jim said, and placed the map on the table. Dr. Livesey called Squire Trelawney at once. Within a short time, all three of them were studying the map. Together, the room became silent. Only the sound of paper moving could be heard. After a few minutes, the squire finally spoke. "This is not a normal map. It shows an island. Dr. Livesey nodded slowly. Yes. And I think this is the place where Captain Flint hid his treasure. A heavy silence filled the room. The idea felt unbelievable, but at the same time exciting. The squire suddenly stood up. We cannot waste time. We must go there. Jim listened quietly. His heart was beating faster again, but this time not from fear, from excitement. A real adventure was starting. The next few days became very busy. A ship was arranged, supplies were collected, food, water, ropes, weapons, and tools were loaded carefully. Men were hired. Some looked honest, but others seemed strange. Jim noticed that not everyone on the ship could be trusted, but he stayed quiet. He was still learning how the world worked. Finally, the day of departure arrived. The ship stood ready near the dock, sails moved slightly in the wind, the ocean stretched far beyond what the eyes could see. Jim stepped onto the ship for the first time. He looked back at the land for a moment, then forward toward the sea. He didn't know what was waiting for him, but one thing was certain: his life was never going to be the same again. The ship slowly left the shore behind. Jim stood on the deck, watching the land disappear into the distance. A strange feeling came over him. It was a mix of excitement and nervousness. Everything looked new. The ocean was huge and endless, stretching in every direction. The sailors moved around the ship, shouting instructions and adjusting ropes. At first, everything felt normal, but Jim was not fully relaxed. He started observing the crew carefully. Some of the men worked hard and followed orders, but others, they whispered among themselves when no one was watching. They seemed secretive. One man, in particular, caught Jim's attention. He was friendly, smiling, and always ready to help. His name was Long John Silver. Silver worked as the ship's cook. He walked with a wooden stick because he had only one leg, but he moved with surprising confidence. Most people on the ship liked him immediately. He told funny stories. He helped new sailors. He even gave food to Jim with kindness. But Jim didn't know why. Something about him felt slightly strange, not dangerous at first glance, but still unusual. As the days passed, the journey continued smoothly. The weather was calm, the sea was peaceful. Jim started learning ship life. He learned how ropes worked, how sails were controlled, and how sailors communicated during work. But inside his mind, he kept thinking about the map and the treasure waiting somewhere far away. One evening, Jim climbed into a large empty barrel on the ship to rest. It was quiet and comfortable inside. He thought no one would notice him there, but suddenly, he heard voices. Footsteps came closer. Jim stayed completely still. He realized that several sailors had stopped right next to the barrel. Then one voice made him freeze. It was Long John Silver. Silver was speaking softly, but clearly, and what Jim heard next changed everything he believed about the ship. Silver was not just a cook. He was planning something dangerous, something hidden, something involving the entire crew. Jim held his breath inside the barrel. He didn't move even a little, because he now understood one thing very clearly. The real danger was not on the island, it was already on the ship. Jim stayed completely still inside the barrel. He could hear every word clearly now. Several sailors were standing very close. The ship creaked gently as it moved through the sea. Then Long John Silver spoke in a low voice. His tone was calm, but his words were serious. Jim had never heard him sound like this before. Silver was no longer the friendly cook everyone trusted. He was leading a secret group. A group of sailors who were not honest at all. They were planning something dangerous, Jim's heart started beating faster. He tried not to make even the smallest sound. Outside, Silver continued speaking. He talked about waiting for the right moment. He said they would not act immediately. First, they needed to find the island, then they would take control of the ship. After that, everything would belong to them, the treasure and the ship. Both. Jim felt cold inside. He realized he was listening to a pirate plan. A real mutiny was being planned right in front of him. The sailors agreed with Silver's words. No one argued. No one stopped him. Jim understood something important. Most of the crew could not be trusted. After a few minutes, the group slowly walked away. Their footsteps faded across the deck. Jim waited. He did not move until everything became silent again. Then he carefully came out of the barrel. His hands were shaking. His mind was full of fear and confusion. But he knew one thing clearly: he could not stay silent. He had to warn someone, because now the real danger had begun. Jim did not waste a single moment. He quietly moved across the deck, making sure no one saw him. His heart was still racing from what he had just heard. Every step felt heavy. He knew this secret was too big to keep alone. He needed to tell someone responsible. Jim first looked for Captain Smollett. After a short search, he found him near the ship's main area, checking ropes and giving instructions. Jim waited until the captain was free. Then he stepped forward and spoke carefully. "Sir, I need to tell you something important." Captain Smollett looked at him with a serious expression. Jim quickly explained everything he had heard inside the barrel, about Long John Silver, about the secret group, and about the plan to take over the ship. The captain listened without interrupting. His face did not show surprise, but it became more serious with every word. When Jim finished, there was a long silence. Then Captain Smollett slowly spoke. "I suspected something like this," he said, "but now we are certain." He told Jim to stay calm and act normal. No one should know that the secret had been exposed. If the pirates found out, they could attack immediately. Jim nodded, but inside, he still felt fear. Now he understood the danger was real, not just a suspicion. A few hours later, Jim also informed Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney. They gathered quietly in a small room on the ship. The mood was heavy. Everyone now knew the truth. The journey had turned into something dangerous. A treasure hunt was no longer just an adventure. It was now a fight for survival. Outside, the ocean continued moving peacefully, but inside the ship, everything had changed. After the secret meeting, everyone tried to act normal. The ship continued moving across the sea as if nothing had changed, but inside, tension was growing every day. Jim now watched every sailor carefully. He no longer trusted smiles or friendly behavior, especially Long John Silver. Silver still acted the same. He laughed with others, he cooked food, he spoke kindly to Jim, but Jim now knew the truth behind that kindness. Days later, the weather slowly changed. The sea became less calm, waves grew stronger, and the ship moved closer to its destination. One morning, a sailor shouted from the top of the mast,
"Hello and welcome back to English Flow Podcast. In this video, you are going to practice very simple, natural English sentences about your daily routine. This is a slow English practice
island
lesson,
appeared.
so don't
It
worry
was
about
green,
fast speaking.
wild,
Just listen
and
carefully
surrounded by
and repeat
deep
after
blue
me.
water.
You can pause
Tall
the video
trees
anytime.
covered the
You
land.
can repeat each
Hills
sentence
rose
2 or
in
3
strange
times.
shapes.
This will help
It
you
looked
improve your
beautiful,
speaking,
but also
pronunciation, and
dangerous.
confidence.
Jim felt a strange
Let's
feeling
begin.
in his
I wake up
chest.
early in the
This
morning.
was the
I wake
place
up
from
at
the map, Treasure
6
Island.
o'clock every day.
The ship
I
slowly
open my eyes
moved
slowly.
closer.
I feel fresh
The
and
crew
calm in the
became
morning.
more
I get out
active.
of my bed.
Some
I
sailors
stretch my
looked
body.
excited.
I feel relaxed after
Others looked
sleeping.
nervous.
I walk to the bathroom.
Long John
I brush my
Silver
teeth
smiled
carefully.
as usual. but
I
his
wash my
eyes
face
were
with cold
different
water.
now.
I clean my body and feel fresh.
More
I take a
focused,
shower every morning.
more
I
serious,
use soap and water.
Captain.
I feel clean and active after shower. I come
Smollett
back to my room.
ordered
I wear
everyone
clean
to
clothes
stay
for the
alert.
day. I
No
choose my
one
clothes
was allowed
carefully.
to
I
act
look at
without
myself in the mirror.
permission.
I comb
As
my
the
hair
ship
slowly.
reached
I
the
try to look
shore,
neat and clean.
small
I feel
boats
ready
were
for my
prepared.
day. I go to the kitchen.
island
I
looked
drink a glass of
quiet,
water
too
first.
quiet.
Then I prepare
Jim
my breakfast.
felt that something was waiting
I eat
for
eggs
them
and
there.
bread in the morning.
Something
Sometimes I eat
unknown,
part of their cereal.
and now
I also
they
drink
were
tea or
about
milk.
to step
I sit with
into
my
it.
family at breakfast.
Small
We
boats
talk
were
about the
lowered
day.
into the
we
water.
share small conversations.
One by one,
I feel happy with my
sailors
family.
began
After
moving
breakfast,
toward the island. The
I
sea
clean
was
my place.
slightly
I
rough,
take my bag.
making
I
the
prepare for
boats
school or
rock
work.
gently.
I check my
Jim
phone for
also
messages.
went with
I
them.
check the time
He
before
could
leaving.
feel his
I make
heart
sure everything
beating
is ready.
faster with
I say
every
goodbye to my
wave
family.
as
I
they
leave my
reached
house
the
slowly.
shore.
I lock the door
The island
carefully.
looked
I
even
step
more
outside my
strange
home.
up
I feel the
close.
fresh morning
Tall
air.
trees
The sun is
blocked
rising.
most of
I
the
start my day
sunlight.
with energy.
The air felt heavy and still. Not many sounds could be heard. Only birds far away in the wind through the leaves. The sailors gathered on the beach for a moment, then some of them started moving inland. They wanted to explore. Jim followed carefully, but soon, he noticed something. The group was slowly splitting. People were moving in different directions. The forest paths were confusing. It was easy to get separated. Jim tried to stay close to others, but the trees became thicker. Within a short time, he realized he was no longer with the main group. He was alone. The forest was silent, too silent. Jim stopped and looked around. He could not see the beach anymore, only trees, rocks, and shadows. For the first time, real fear entered his mind. He had no idea which direction to go. Every path looked the same. Then suddenly, he heard a sound behind him. Footsteps, slow and careful. Jim turned quickly, but he could not see anyone clearly. The trees blocked his view. Whoever was there was hiding. Jim stepped back slowly, trying not to make noise. His hands became cold. He realized something important. He was not alone on this island. Someone was watching him.